Hello, this is another video of tonight. We have today, this is proof, the 5th, I have written there the 6th, the 5th of February, and a horoscope. No, I don't need that. Jungle camp. No, not right now. But this might be of interest. A photograph taken to show a weak family, not to be afraid of. There is a mother caring for a child who cannot even go its way, and the father, isn't he old? Also, man sieht hier eine Familie, doch, die ist doch harmlos. Das Kind kann nicht richtig laufen, die Mutter, die ist auch sehr besorgt und der Vater ist alt. Sieht so aus. That was taken to show the regime. It was before 45. Why I'm showing it to you. There are 3 lines. This line is my father FJU. FJU. Oh. That are abbreviations for his name, and his surname is here taken as a civil name as well. This is most likely going back to, don't know exactly, and this is going to Charlemagne, if that is right, what I'm expecting. So I have 3 lines to investigate, and unfortunately I'm the only one left. And why is he coming to that line as well? Who is that? Sitting what? Sitting Bull. There was the rumor, the father of this father of mine was in the US. He was there as a little boy as well. Maybe later I will tell you a little bit. There's this oral report, but it's trustworthy from my mother, the older, and the mother is very young. She had not even thought of, I think so. Maybe she had of being a mother. I don't know. She was remembering very well. So I have 3 lines. And what is that? That is on the sideline. 2 centuries ago, there had been, this line goes back to Alexander the Great, as the so-called. Maybe he wasn't. He was even a centimeter smaller than my mother. So it was greatness, of course, as it was regarded, and it goes back to Genghis Khan. I did not know him personally, but that was said to me as a child, and I couldn't believe it. But now when I come to the conclusion, there are evidence this is going to Frederick III. She once joked, you might call yourself the 4th. Why that? Is that everyone in town can think of being someday a queen, like it is done in the Netherlands. If you behave as a child, you one day could be a princess, and this is not right for princess. And she was rescued from, I can't prove it, so I don't tell you, from somewhere. And this is, on the sideline, there were so-called travelsmen, former relatives I call them, but remember, maybe 200 years ago. But then they had friendly terms, and they were feeling related, because they were naturalists, not nude. They were living in the mountains, they were hillbillies, they were travelsmen on sea. Was ja jetzt only, also habe ich jetzt nur Englisch gehört, also das hier ist also eine Seitenlinie. I must talk a little bit German, because this should be bilingual. Also ich hatte schon gesagt, das ist eine Darstellung, ich weiß das nicht ganz sicher, es sollte ein Foto gemacht werden, weil mein Vater war retired, weiß ich nicht, ob die Generäle hatten überhaupt, aber das war so eine Generalsversammlung, wo er teilnahm und das könnte man auch überprüfen, ich wüsste das gerne. Und meine Mutter ist wahrscheinlich durch die Wirren der Nachkaiserzeit ist sie mehr abseits gegangen. Ich weiß nicht, das war nicht freiwillig, da muss eine andere, aber es war ja da nicht mehr aktiv Regierung. Also ist das auch eine Sache, hat sich der Staat auch nicht drum gekümmert. Das müsste Braunschweig-Hannover gewesen sein, aber ich kann das nicht überprüfen. Aber ich habe so jetzt den Verdacht, das, was sie in dritter Person erzählte, warum hätte sie das sonst machen sollen? Ich bin als Kind mit uralten Geschichten ja nicht belästigt worden, aber das kommt mir jetzt sehr komisch vor. Warum wurde mir von einer Prinzessin erzählt, die auch im Dritten Reich Widerstand geleistet hat? Ich hatte nämlich gesagt, keiner hat was gemacht. Da musste alles mein Vater alleine machen. Der ist ja nicht so stark. Und er war dann an so Freunde geraten, die ihm so viel wert waren, dass er da sogar versucht hatte, sie zu schützen. Und die Kleine hier, warum musste sie gerettet werden? Warum haben sie überhaupt Leute gerettet? So I said in German a little bit different. In the best, you can understand German as well, or ask me and I will make a video in English only. And und dann hier, da soll, weil sie sich ja in der Seitenlinie zumindest den Fahrensleuten, den Fahrensleuten zugehörig fühlten. Es gab Seefahrer, es gab Landfahrer, so hießen die auch. There were seamen, there were travelers on land, and I can remember my mother said, I want to do something for the travelsmen in America, for the gypsies there. I don't know how they call themselves. And then was a new brand, Tupperware, put in place. And this, sadly enough, and it is a coincidence, Zufall, wie alles Zufall ist, also alles, ganz, ganz sicher, ist die jetzt pleite gegangen? Oder stimmt das nicht? Ich komme mir ein bisschen komisch vor. That was invented as articles the travelsman could make a living of. Ja, hier, das ist meine Familie. Und das haben sie manchmal absichtlich gemacht, dass sie sich eben nicht so in Pose gestellt haben. Wenn das hier die Kaisertochter ist, weiß ich auch nicht mehr. Was hat man dann gegen sie? Weil die wurden ja so dumm dargestellt. Ist aufgenommen? Ja. Die wurden ja so dumm dargestellt. So Wilhelm II, war das britische Absicht, ihn dumm darzustellen? Er hatte Probleme als Kind. Er ist dann auch, der rechte Arm war kaputt. Ja. Da musste er sich ein Hasenfell umbinden, so ein Schrott. There was unbelief. This couldn't be the emperor's daughter. And this, the tribe's chief, his father, he could well have been Custer. And now I want to show you that what then, if this theory would be true, would have been the ancestry about this. My mother had inside knowledge, and I once had a meeting with a lady. She was then living near Stuttgart. That was a friend of my mother. How was she having a friend of renowned high standing? Also warum hatte meine Mutter, hier ist sie noch in Breslau, warum hatte sie, und das ist wahrscheinlich absichtlich, damit das Regime jetzt denkt, naja, ist schon gut, wir müssen die überwachen und da muss man auch Nazi spielen. Ich bin auch nicht dafür. I'm not in favor to play Nazi, but back then you could not resist if you were not disguising yourself. And this was one of the specialist techniques I want to show you a little bit why they had the techniques, the knowledge from their tribe system, even if that is some years ago. And they were still training in it. And that was, sorry, this was not. Also das haben sie noch aus dem ehemaligen Stammessystem, auch wenn das 200 Jahre vorher war. Das sind die Schmiede. They were copper blacksmith. But not only copper, but everything that could be blacksmithed. Also sie waren Schmiede, nicht nur Kupfer, sondern alles, was man irgendwie schmieden konnte. And with it also gun makers. And I once had the saying, this is your brand. It was a pistol making in the US, but then it was said, no, it's your brand, but no, it's mine. And there was a child, and I was not saying anything, except if it is your business, it is your business. Was soll man dazu sagen? Ich bin mal gesagt worden, das hier ist Wrangler zum Beispiel auch. Also einige Marken, die sind da gegründet worden und die müssen auch finanziert worden sein. Aber ich will jetzt nicht zu sehr im Business gehen, weil ich bin ja nicht bekloppt, dass ich jetzt mit Finanzen mir das kaputt mache. Aber es ist Trickery, was ich vermute. Aber jetzt nicht unbedingt von denen hier, sondern von jedem eigentlich. Also Schmiede, das war so die Technik. Und this goes back to India, but the gypsies of today, they are still, I don't know any, but in my recognition, those were techniques they developed. And if those had developed the techniques, they would be now factory owners. Also vielleicht haben sie das auch, also diese Technik entwickelt. Sie sind früher Schmiede gewesen und diese Technik, die ist dann gesammelt worden aus dem ganzen Osten. Dort in erster Linie, also die Stammesverbindung geht zuerst in den Osten, Iran runter. Und also wenn das stimmt, dann geht das einmal um die Welt. Weil sie waren ja auch Seefahrer, deswegen Trogmacher, also das wäre dann hier so Töpfer und Fässer und alles, was irgendwie Dinge beinhaltet, wenn man das weiterentwickelt. Those then would have been vessel makers. That was a business brand or business. No, it was handicraft, a branch of the former tribe system, and that was 100 years ago or 200 years ago. But they still had relations because they were the leading tribe, and that was sad enough that due to World War I and World War II, that was no longer possible. The Germans were very much surveilled, and some did emigrate toward other countries, and then they became Americans, Australians, and so on. Then there were musicians. You can imagine this goes to Japan, of course, as well. So this is a system of the tribes people, of the tribesmen people. They are on friendly terms, but they have conflict as well. And then there were toreros or rodeo riders. When I talk a little bit English, it becomes better. Schausteller und Artisten. This was of course the business they later in one of the branches used. They were in the bodyguard business, in the military surveillance business, and they helped British and Americans to develop their own, and this should be credited. And they were regarded as trustworthy, but only the family, the leading family, and I cannot allow this name to be maligned. Also das ist wirklich wichtig. Sie haben dann diese Schaustellerei und auch diese Maskenmaking, this comes next. This is from Japan. Mask making and so on, the technique of Hollywood, they had learned not only those, but as well. And they used it, habe ich das auf Englisch, weiß ich wohl nicht. Also die haben das auf den, doch das war, aber das ist so schon sehr spät in der Nacht, 2 Uhr. And then the next, that was merchandise. And there were merchants, but maybe those, they had, of course, relations, not to every side. And they were a little bit outsiders, so you understand, in Breslau, those were not outsiders, those were specialists as well. Those were good craftsmen. They were good in their doing, and then there were the merchants, and they had relations. One was a technician, the other a merchant, and then a bank specialist. And in Breslau, in the special togetherness, that was not only because they were friendly and Christian or Jewish good citizens, there was a Muslim as well. I don't know, those this man on the piano in Spain, but they had no, they had not a sticker on "I'm a Muslim." Yes, they had to have in Germany, and that destroyed much trust. So this is Gypsy land. They had, of course, a special character, and I'm not saying that I have to underline that there were differences as well. So I'm not saying I go to one side or the other. I'm saying that the speciality of my father's family, I will show it again, that was to bond together. That is why it was called the special togetherness. Also das besondere Miteinander, das war eben die Spezialität. But not all. He was rather alone. But I regard those, my mother was behind him, and my mother, there are two, the younger as well. She was, we were not communicating about it because you cannot put yourself in a box. Also man kann sich selbst auch nicht in eine Schublade tun. Man kann nicht sagen, man ist jetzt verbindend und dann sind da Leute, mit denen kann man nicht zusammen. Das heißt, in Breslau muss es Leute gegeben haben, die haben sich ertragen auch, weil sie waren sehr unterschiedlich. Die haben sich ertragen. Und da müssen einige dabei gewesen sein, die auch vor zumindest 100, 200 Jahren diese Sachen unterwegs angefertigt haben. Korbflechter, this is making vessels out of a patchwork. Also Korbflechter gehören auch dazu, aber davon weiß ich jetzt nicht so viel. Und dann war Lehmziegelmacher. This is to make clay coverings for roofs, for example. And there was a branch, a family, that went to my mother and asked for help. There was a church destroyed by the Wehrmacht, and the man from, I think it was Norway, he was not paying. So my mother helped, and she had some sources who sprang in, and I don't know if this is regulated, because it was not our fault that the Wehrmacht was there. So I'm not believing into put myself in a box of some country, because there were travelsmen, but I think there were Germans in the first place, and Americans. Why Americans as well? I maybe explain later. They were American, or I do a little bit immediately. Also warum waren sie auch Amerikaner? It was because a branch was in Texas. And I think another, they had good relations, very good relations, the Ute people, or Sitting Bull as well. So they had contracts between, very friendly contracts, also vielleicht sogar Freundesverträge, das weiß ich nicht genau, das muss ich alles noch rauskriegen, auch zwischen Stämmen und auch, dass sie die Familien so praktisch rechtlich mit Freundesverträgen auch aneinander gebunden haben. But I don't know much. It was very destroyed because of the war and the aftermath. Also sehr viel zerstört worden durch den Krieg und durch das, was danach eben passiert ist. Also hier wollte ich erzählen, also ich habe ein bisschen freigemacht auf dem PC, deswegen kann ich es wahrscheinlich jetzt auch besser aufnehmen. Also ich habe Speicherplatz freigemacht. That is someone my mother knew, this lady. And that would be, this would be then a brother? I don't know. So this is theory, but she knew quite a lot about those boys. They all had a special group around them, and it did not work out always to their benefit to have such care, because they were somehow immune and they, in their youth. They were not all to the expectations of the mother. The mother, she was rather strict, a strict lady. The Victoria Auguste, and my mother knew a lot about it. And my mother was helping, I don't know, I thought till now she was like a secretary, even following the emperor to his Kaiserwetter greetings, also to his marketplace visits. She one time explained to me how they traveled by train, and then the horses were put to the marketplace and they sat on it, and she was sitting sidewards in a lady's saddle. And they had to wait till the mayor came, and then that was done to bond the people together. The German folks were not always, or had not been that friendly. There had been wars inside of the German Reich some years before. So that would be the line, a sideline. I don't know everything. They had intermarried for 1, 2, 3 or 4 generations, and it was with contracts. I don't know much, but I know that they were the leaders who had been Christianized, who had been converted, and that was tried to be exploited. The other leaders in the German Reich, they had made contracts that they would not give an unbeliever the same as a believer, and they regarded themselves Christians. And then that was a coincidence that they came back converted, and they said, oh, this is good. So you now please give us what is due. And then they had the excuse, they had given it, they had voted to the churches. And this would be interested, but I'm not after money. I must be very cautious. Money is there to govern it, to look that it is done right. And to use it, of course, but people who are after money, who had no standing with my parents, those are the 3 parents. The raising father is parent as well. But he was strict also. I don't know in what regard, and he would like me to go after that also, I'm sure, but I have a family that is now not even knowing that I'm investigating this. I do not think they will fall in my back, but it could be that they were manipulated to do so. This is 1982, and she is having a group of friends. He is having a group of friends and he. Are those friends? Are those friends? And hers? I can't say because I'm stuck. I'm on the level of social welfare, so I need funds. And I'm thinking, if there is an enemy, he could try to starve me out. This would be military tactic. And I hope in the day of age we are living now, in 2024, this is not allowed anymore. And I mean starving out, then do not give me what they already know is mine. There was once a talk about a bank account in Frankfurt, and why wasn't it given to me? Because they said the ancestry must be clear. But who is obligated to help me? Also da hat es mal ein Bankkonto gegeben in Frankfurt, das sollte ich kriegen, das habe ich nicht bekommen. Also kein Penny, weil die Abstammung nicht klar wäre. And then I had to believe those were dreams. She was a diplomat. She asked me, are you believing I'm lying? And I said, no. No, I don't believe you're lying, but I believe you, but I can't do anything about it. Also die hatte gefragt, glaubst du, dass ich lüge? Nein, habe ich gesagt, glaube ich nicht. Aber man kann nichts machen. Others sagten, sie ist eine Hochstaplerin, die das im Diplomatendienst gemacht hat. Steckt da der Adel dahinter? Wer steckt dahinter? Wer ist eigentlich der Adel? Oder stecken die Sozialdemokraten dahinter? Er war Sozialdemokrat. Stecken die dahinter? Die Kommunisten doch nicht. Das kann sein. Die hatten das kennengelernt. Communists had experienced Mecklenburg and they were starving. They were starving because the administrator had not given them the seed potatoes, and quite a lot of families died. And that was blamed on nobility. And this is quite around till today. Are all those put in a box? Was he king of Bohemia? His father king of Bavaria? Or was he supposed to become a king of Bavaria and then put his money aside? Like in a contract. You are becoming king of Bavaria, and in the contract is written, now goes every funds you owe to the state. Also da ist gesagt worden, der Vater sollte König von Bayern werden. Das ist ein Gerücht. Ja, muss ich ganz deutlich sagen. Und das wäre alles zum Staat gegangen. Denn ich stehe doch hier vor Sachen, die können doch gar nicht stimmen. Es kann doch gar nicht stimmen, dass hier der König in so Erdhöhlen, das würde passen. Das war so die Taktik auch der Indianer, dass die sich, und das ist auch für Militär auch ganz günstig, man kann das noch mehr tarnen, dann sieht man gar nicht, dass da jetzt Militär ist, kann man auch nicht so gut angreifen. Vielleicht ist Isolierung auch noch ganz gut. Und ich bin hier mal gewesen. I can remember this was, by unknown sources, was bought. And then it was said it is contaminated, and I thought, no, this then was not okay, I cannot use it. But I have no document. Also ich habe kein Dokument, das ist surreal. Ich war irgendwie dabei und das ist gekauft worden von einer Stiftung oder von wem? Von einem Verein? And that was in the 80s, you did something for others. So I always thought our job were counseling. We were like, and this is my mother, a little bit older, but not at her end. And this is my mother, the younger. Ja. No, das hat nichts damit zu tun, ob es ein Rang ist. Machen wir mal so. Nicht, dass jemand denkt, da steht einer über den anderen. Das kann ich wirklich nicht sagen. Aber meine Mutter, die Ältere, hatte mehr zu sagen, weil die Mutter, die Jüngere, war auch als ihre Tochter aufgewachsen. Vielleicht hatte sie aber gewusst, sie ist eigentlich eine Prinzessin. Das ist ihr nicht gegeben worden. Und sie hatte wohl ein Zerwürfnis. Es gab ja Adelsrecht, genauso wie Kirchenrecht. There had been nobility laws, similarly to church law. And there had been some business, I think, but I don't know exactly. Later I learned it could be moral. Could it be that her brothers were running after shirts, also den Frauen hergelaufen ist? Die durften das, and she had a group of young ladies, and those misfits were judged on her. Also ich habe die Idee gehabt, dass sie verantwortlich war für eine Gruppe von Mädchen und die haben sich moralisch fehlverhalten und dann wurde sie dafür bestraft. Das wäre eine feine Sache für die anderen. Weil da ist dann meistens ein Vorteil für andere. But to our disadvantage that would have been, if my mother would have been judged for misfits, because she was a lady that was judged, and with others it was not judged the same. But I never understood it fully, and the most problematic thing was, it was after the reigning powers of nobility had the say. Also das war irgendwie ein Richten, nein, das weiß ich ja nicht. It was not said, because it was secret. Ich musste schlussfolgern, also ich musste sehr raten, but I think there must be some written account, because it is now, and it was concerning my mother as well. She went to the police station in Hanover and in Hessen, and she filed reports on behalf of the mother, the older, but she was not allowed to do so. And I think she did not even know. Was that because she was under state regulations as a noble? No, as someone who worked as a diplomat, who worked on the basic laws of Germany. It's not a constitution in the same. It is basic laws. It is basic laws, and there had been different opinions about the language that was to be regarded the conclusive. Also welche Sprache da jetzt die maßgebende sei, Englisch oder Deutsch. Da gab es irgendwie Auseinandersetzungen, ich kann mich daran erinnern. Im Englischen ist das eher wie ein shall, man sollte, und im Deutschen ist es man ist oder man hat. Oder das ist also feststehend. Und kann das sein, dass sie unter Vorbehalt war, weil sie dafür gearbeitet hat? Und warum sagte eine andere Dame, dass meine Mutter dabei gewesen wäre und die hat keine Konsequenzen gehabt, weil die schon so alt war? Die habe ich im Altenheim getroffen. Da war ich noch ein bisschen älter als hier. I want to show you for the last, if that. By the way, this is a coin that shows Karl. He is the father of Fritz. So he is part of the family as well. But he had a little bit different. He had a little bit different. This is the raising father. And the siblings, they were grown with me, together with me. So they are part as well, but they were raised differently. And I think they had groups of people interested in them. I have no proof of that. I'm working like a detective. I'm quite feeling like one of the three investigators. And the legend goes, the three investigators first were in Breslau and Lodz, and then some diplomat sons were also in Los Angeles. And there I, as a child, had met Mr. Hitchcock, or someone who said he was normally, under normal circumstances, not talking with children. So, also er war sehr barsch, sonst habe ich das auch mitgekriegt, ein bisschen Angst vor dem. Das war so ein General, der da die Journalisten und die Medienschaffenden da irgendwie, ich weiß nicht, ob man sagen kann, so eine Generalkaufmann, also der da irgendwie die Gelder verteilte und auch die Autoren bezahlte und dann das so, ich weiß nicht, irgendwie sowas wie ein Chef von dem. Und da hat der Onkel in Amerika gesagt, der hätte auch meinen Vater gekannt. Aber ich wusste nicht, ob ich da sagen durfte, dass er mein Vater ist. Er war offiziell manchmal besser mein Großvater. Ähm, Das ist er ja auch, durch die Mutter, die jünger war. Also ich hatte da immer die Wahl. So, das wäre dann die Personalie und das funktioniert ja gar nicht. This would be the personality, the file of my mother, but only till, according to my calculation, till the midst of the 20th. And the replacement, the other, then had died in 1980. And I don't know if they later had done a contract, so the replacement then would have been the Duchess. This then would be the real account, and they were still married, even if the other were holding the place. So that was problematic, of course. That is not on the photo. But this then must have been a break. No, this then would be someone else. This then would be someone else because it is 1970. You see, this is problematic. This, at the beginning, would have been my mother in person. And she had explained me a little bit about this marriage, and that it was quite different in Hanover, I don't know, Braunschweig, Hanover, in the town. The court was different. Maybe she had followed the emperor's daughter, because she was a connoisseur of her, and she was never using the I form, I did and I did that. She always explained about her from a third perspective. But she knew some things, but that would then not be my mother anymore, because that must have been my mother fleeing with her legal husband, and the other was legal as well. So this is a little bit complicated, but it is quite according to the German house laws, because you cannot apply any law. It must be the special one, and I'm not following that for my private life. But then, according to my calculation, that moral codex to have two husbands, I mean, it is not. I'm not quite sure, so I'm putting question marks. And the others in the family, of course, they find it somewhat disgusting or else. But think about it. She was not allowed to go back to her husband. She was pressed very hard to cringe toward the Pope of nobility. I don't know who that was. And her brothers might have been with the ambition to demolish her. And then she went to her youth, the friend of her youth, and they married her, and what else was done, I don't know. But it was legal, that is important, and there must have been a special standing. And I understood when being abroad, I had a little bit of it as well, but I couldn't. It wasn't explained. It wasn't explained, so I must now do it as a detective, or a kind of detective. And this in the highest Nazi government, there was now no other. Of course, my father was in the highest as well. this was the spirit of the times. What does that mean? She was in the highest court, in the highest circles. Nothing. That was only explaining that they had been there. If they had not been, they could not have done anything. So this is complicated. I myself would have wished and dreamed they would have emigrated before this. Also ich hätte mir natürlich auch gewünscht, dass sie ausgewandert wären, dann wäre ich auch im Ausland aufgewachsen. Aber was hier steht, sie sind in den höchsten Kreisen gewesen, was soll damit suggeriert werden? Ich möchte gerne herausfinden, ob der wirklich, und das ist so mir erzählt worden, dass er im Widerstand war, im Offizierskorps, als es um den Russlandfeldzug ging, aber er konnte sich nicht durchsetzen, er musste Sorge haben um sein eigenes Leben. Das hat die Mutter, die Ältere, gesagt, wörtlich. Ich bin noch immer als Detective, jetzt nicht denken, dass ich das wüsste. Und I want to find out. He was in opposition in the high-ranking military that he left. He retired because of his age and because there was no hope he could come through, and maybe he did something on his own, and that this then was private. And he had still standing, but it was of course dangerous. And my mother was once put in a concentration camp. I want to find out that. Why is there no answering? Are my letters not understandable? Maybe I must try it again. But this, my mother, she had been in a concentration camp, and when young tribes members tried to free her, they were shot. Also da haben ganz junge Leute, die sie versucht haben zu befreien, das Leben verloren, weil die erschossen wurden. Also es war gefährlich, und sie ist dann herausgekommen wegen Dingen, die wahrscheinlich von außen, also wahrscheinlich eine Art Immunität, das ist jetzt die Interpretation. Und sie hat ehrliche Angaben gemacht, weil sie dort jetzt keine Vernichtungseinrichtung gesehen hat. Aber andere haben dann Schwierigkeiten bekommen, und das ist natürlich auch unverschämt. Wieso hat man die gegeneinander ausgespielt? Das muss man natürlich auch unverschämt ist einiges, was im Krieg und nach dem Krieg passiert ist. Also das ist nichts Ungewöhnliches. So, und dann ist aber hier dann ab den 30er spätestens das, was dann hier steht, das ist dann nicht mehr meine Mutter. Das ist nicht mehr meine Mutter. Hier steht zum Beispiel, also es muss gewesen sein, als sie von der Flucht wiedergekommen sind aus Österreich, dass dann die andere die Gelegenheit genutzt hat und hat dann einfach den Wachen gesagt, es kommt eine, die sieht so aus wie ich, die dürft ihr nicht reinlassen. Das kann dann schon gewesen sein. Naja. Und dann hat sie Ärger gekriegt, das gehört jetzt nicht unbedingt hin, aber das habe ich noch hier liegen. Sitting Bull, das war ein Bekannter von Karl in irgendeiner Form. Ja. So genau das habe ich noch nicht rausbekommen. Und dann musste sie ja irgendwie was finden, und das muss gefährlich gewesen sein. Ja, und da hatte sie auch eine Journalistin, aber das ist alles aus der dritten Person. Ich hatte manchmal gedacht, meine Mutter wäre die Journalistin gewesen, aber dann hörte sie auf zu erzählen. There was some surveillance against my mother. I want to find out why and what was that. And why were there entries in the files, in the police records, about me? And those were false. I had reclamation, also wie sagt man das, also eine Reklamation im Zentralregister, das ist immerhin so eine Art Polizeiakte. Das sind Falscheintragungen gewesen, schon 1986, 1986. There I had pointed out there were false entries, but nothing happened. It was said those entries could be from foreign entities, and it was not me being in a prison, or was it when I had detective work. As a youth, I was also a little bit doing detective work. I cannot talk about that. There was detective work, and it was not too much. It was only the little ABC, and I did not do it on my own. It was state guided. Also möchte ich natürlich auch noch rauskriegen. Ich habe ein bisschen Detektivarbeit gemacht. Ob das in der Akte drin ist. Aber es muss ja klargestellt werden, dass ich kein Krimineller bin. Ne? Also ich habe jetzt fast den Eindruck, die spinnen ein bisschen. Also das hier, das wird sie dann nicht mehr gewesen sein. Denn die andere hat auch Aktivitäten durchgenommen. Also ich habe nichts Schlechtes. I did not hear very bad things about the Duchess of Hanover. I can remember she once said she's behaving like a movie star. That is not the behavior of a Duchess. Also daran kann ich mich erinnern, dass er einmal sagte, sie ist ja wie so ein Filmstar und dass ihr das nicht gefiel. Und die andere Mutter, here is a photograph of, I think she is Johanna, in Breslau. That is in Breslau. This pole is in the garden. Is there a doll? She had a doll with her. And this is the last. I want to state again, I had not the energy because of trouble, of big trouble. I was growing sick because of the jet lag of night shift. And I had to take medicine, and that made me very sleepy, very sleepy. People were laughing. They said, you sleep day and night. And this was for quite a time, 15 years in the least. Also ich will mich darüber nicht beklagen, aber das muss man eigentlich. And I'm now trying to come back on my feet. I do not feel very old, but I feel not very strong as well. I thank you very much, and this is not lamentation, it is a kind of lamentation. Why can't we put things together? Why is there no interest? It's rather lamentation about that. Also das hier ist keine Klage, aber es ist eher eine Anklage. Warum ist da kein Interesse? Somebody should be interested. It is about resistance, but it is not only about resistance in the Third Reich, it is resistance in general. It could well be that they had their conversion, and then General Custer thought, if that is him, I think so, we must help where we can. This is quite sure. That is his identity coin. And he looked similar. Here he had a hand injury. And they were, for security reasons, in disguise as well. Maybe I have a good day today. I'm having quite fun to do this, but I hope there will be some audience, because till now I have no feedback. Thank you very much.